It was an ordinary evening, and Mia was once again exhausted. The sound of her children running through the house, laughing and arguing over something trivial, was familiar. Mia smiled weakly as she looked at them. They were good kids, and despite the daily challenges, they filled her life with joy. But tonight was different. Tonight something felt off. Something that had been building up for a while. A weight she could no longer ignore. Mia was a single mom, and she'd been doing it alone since her divorce. Life hadn't been easy, but she always made it work. Her two kids, Alex and Lily, were everything to her. They had their moments of mischief, but they were also kind, thoughtful, and incredibly resilient. Still, balancing work, caring for them, and running a household on her own had drained her more than she cared to admit. The exhaustion had become her constant companion. Her days were spent at a job she didn't particularly enjoy, just to make ends meet. The hours were long, and when she wasn't at work, she was running errands, cooking, cleaning, and trying to stay on top of everything that came with being a single parent. She was proud of how she managed everything. But there were days when it all felt too much. Days when she longed for a moment of peace. A time when she didn't feel like she was constantly racing against the clock. Tonight, as the kids were tucked into bed, Mia sat down at the kitchen table with a glass of water in front of her, her mind racing. She reached for her phone and began typing a message to her friend Lisa, who had been her rock for years. The message was simple, but it carried the weight of her frustrations. I just need a break. These kids, this job, everything, it's just too much sometimes. I'm losing myself in it all. I feel like I'm constantly trying to keep up, but I'm always falling short. It wasn't a long message, but it was enough. Enough for Lisa to understand. Enough for Mia to admit to herself that she wasn't as fine as she kept pretending to be. Mia hit send and then set her phone down, rubbing her eyes. It wasn't long before she received a reply, but it wasn't from Lisa. It was from a number she didn't recognize. Hey Mia, I think we need to discuss twins. Mia blinked, confused. Twins? What was this about? She stared at the message, her tired brain trying to make sense of it. She didn't have twins, nor did she know anyone who did. The message didn't make sense. Her first instinct was to dismiss it as some kind of mistake. Maybe it was a wrong number or spam. But then, something about the message piqued her curiosity. She glanced at the number again, hoping to spot something that would give her an idea of who had sent it. Nothing. Just a series of digits. But the tone of the message, the certainty with which it was written, made her pause. We need to discuss twins. She raised an eyebrow and for a moment wondered if she should just ignore it and go to bed. But something told her not to. Maybe it was the fact that she had been feeling so overwhelmed, so out of control, that she was willing to entertain the idea that this could be the universe offering her a distraction. Or maybe, just maybe, it was a sign that something unexpected was about to happen. With a sigh, Mia typed back, trying to make sense of the strange message. Who is this? I think you have the wrong number. I don't have any twins. She hit send and set the phone aside, hoping that would be the end of it. But moments later, the phone buzzed again. This time, the reply was quick and direct. Apologies for the confusion. I meant twins in the metaphorical sense. Let's meet. I've arranged for a limo to pick you up. Mia's eyes widened as she read the message. A limo? Who would send her a limo? What kind of person would do that? The idea seemed absurd, and yet as she stared at the message, she couldn't help but feel intrigued. Why would someone send a limo to me? She whispered to herself, shaking her head. It was crazy. She thought about the practicalities of her life. Her kids needed her, and she couldn't just leave for an unknown meeting with a stranger. But there was a part of her, the part that had been feeling invisible for so long, that wanted to say yes. She wanted something different, something that wasn't just about managing the everyday grind. Mia sat there for a moment, weighing the situation in her mind. It felt risky, even foolish, but at the same time she realized how little she had to lose. She was stuck in a rut, living the same routine day after day. Maybe this was her chance to break out, to do something completely out of character. She hesitated for only a moment before she typed back, Okay, I'll meet you, but I need to know who I'm meeting. The reply came quickly. Don't worry, we'll discuss everything when you get here. Just be ready in 30 minutes. And just like that, Mia's world shifted. She had no idea what she was walking into, but she knew it was something she couldn't ignore. As the time ticked down, Mia quickly got ready, her heart pounding in her chest. She changed into the most presentable outfit she could find, A simple dress she hadn't worn in a while, something that made her feel like she wasn't just a tired mom running on empty. She did her best to smooth her hair and apply a little makeup, though she knew it was hardly the time for vanity. The limo, she thought, was coming for a reason. It wasn't like she could show up looking like she hadn't just rolled out of bed. Mia checked the clock again and then looked at the mirror. Her reflection was tired but determined. She was nervous, but she was also curious, and that curiosity was enough to override the fear that was creeping in. Just as she was about to head out the door, she heard a car pull up outside. She rushed to the window, peering through the curtains. There, parked in front of her modest home, was a sleek black limousine. Her breath caught in her throat. This couldn't be real, but it was. The door of the limo opened and a driver stepped out, walking up to her door. He looked perfectly professional, wearing a crisp suit, his demeanor calm and collected. "Are you Mia?" he asked, his voice polite. Mia nodded, still in disbelief. "Yes, I am." "Great. Please, if you're ready, we can go." Without saying another word, Mia stepped outside, the cool evening air hitting her face. The limo was more luxurious than anything she had ever experienced. As she climbed inside, she felt a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. The interior of the limo was plush, with leather seats and soft lighting that made everything feel far more glamorous than her daily life. She sat down, her mind racing. What was this about? Who was the person behind the mysterious texts? And what did they want to discuss? As the limo began to move, Mia stared out the window, her heart still racing. She had no idea where she was going, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was on the edge of something big. She didn't know what was waiting for her at the end of this ride. But one thing was clear. Her life was about to change in ways she couldn't yet understand. And for better or worse, she was going to find out exactly who had sent that strange message. The limo glided through the streets, the soft hum of the engine filling the quiet space. Mia sat back against the plush leather seat, her hands resting in her lap. Every few seconds she glanced out the window, trying to piece together what was happening. It felt like a dream, something that wasn't real. A text message, a limo, and now she was on her way to meet a stranger. A stranger who seemed to know something about her life even though they had never met. She tried to calm her nerves. It wasn't easy. Her heart pounded in her chest and her mind raced with questions. Who was this person? Why had they sent a limo to pick her up? And what did they mean by twins? Nothing about this made sense, and yet a small part of her couldn't help but be curious. She had always played by the rules, always stuck to the safe path. But tonight she was stepping into the unknown. And maybe, just maybe, it was exactly what she needed. As the limo made its way through the city, Mia's thoughts drifted back to her children. She had left them at home with a neighbor, a woman she trusted. They were asleep by now, but the thought of them made her feel guilty. What if something went wrong? What if this was a terrible mistake? She shook her head, trying to push the doubts away. She had to believe that whatever was happening tonight was meant to be. The city lights passed by in a blur, and after what seemed like forever, the limo finally came to a stop. Mia looked out the window. They had arrived at a building she didn't recognize. It was a sleek, modern structure with glass windows that reflected the lights of the city. The building looked important, and the feeling in her chest tightened. She had no idea what she was walking into, but she was about to find out. The driver opened the door and stepped out. Mia followed him, her steps unsure as she moved toward the entrance of the building. The door swung open automatically, and she stepped into a spacious lobby. The floor was polished marble, and the walls were adorned with elegant artwork. Everything about the place screamed luxury, a far cry from the modest life she was used to. "Follow me," the driver said, his voice calm but firm. Mia nodded, her heart still racing. She walked behind him, taking in the surroundings. She was out of her element, but something told her to keep moving forward. As they passed through the lobby, Mia couldn't help but wonder if this was all some elaborate joke. She had been part of pranks before, but none of them had involved limousines and fancy buildings. They reached an elevator, and the driver pressed the button for the top floor. The doors slid open and Mia stepped inside. The elevator was sleek, with dark wood paneling and soft lighting. The ride was smooth, and as it ascended, Mia's nerves began to settle just a little. It was quiet except for the soft music playing in the background. She took a deep breath, trying to clear her mind. What was the worst that could happen? She was here now, and she might as well find out what this was all about. The elevator dinged and the doors opened to reveal a hallway. At the end of the hallway was a large door slightly ajar. The driver stopped in front of it and knocked lightly. "Mr. Sinclair will be with you in a moment," the driver said before turning and walking away, leaving Mia standing there. Unsure of what to do next, Mia stood still for a moment, gathering her thoughts. She could hear soft voices coming from the other side of the door, but she couldn't make out the words. It sounded like a conversation, but it was too muffled for her to understand. She felt a sudden wave of doubt. Maybe this wasn't a good idea. Maybe she should leave. But before she could make up her mind, the door opened wider and a man stepped out. He was tall, dressed in a sharp suit with a confident smile on his face. His eyes were kind but calculating, as if he had seen a lot and knew exactly what he wanted. Mia froze for a moment, unsure of what to do or say. "Ms. Taylor?" he asked, his voice warm and welcoming. Mia nodded, her throat dry. "Yes, that's me. Please come in." "We've been expecting you," he said, stepping aside to let her enter the room. Mia hesitated, her eyes scanning the man. He seemed genuine, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was stepping into something much bigger than herself. Still, she took a deep breath and walked into the room. The space was large, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a stunning view of the city below. The furniture was elegant but not overdone, and the room had an air of sophistication without feeling cold or unwelcoming. There was a large desk in the center, and behind it sat a man who could only be described as powerful. He was the one who had sent the limo, the one who had texted her about twins. His name was Sinclair, but she had no idea who he really was. "Please take a seat," Mr. Sinclair said, gesturing to one of the chairs in front of his desk. Mia walked over and sat down, still unsure of what was going on. She had so many questions, but she didn't know where to begin. Mr. Sinclair leaned back in his chair, studying her with an intensity that made her feel like he could read her thoughts. "I know you must be confused, but I assure you I'm not here to waste your time," he said, his voice smooth but with an edge of authority. "I've been following your work, Ms. Taylor. I know what you've been through, and I believe we can help each other." Mia blinked, surprised by his words. "I don't understand." "What do you mean?" Mr. Sinclair smiled as if he had been waiting for her to ask. "I've been watching you, Ms. Taylor. Not in a creepy way, I assure you," he said with a chuckle. "But I've seen your potential. Your business, your resilience, and your drive. You're a woman who's trying to do it all, and you're doing it alone. But I can offer you something more, an opportunity that could change everything for you." Mia felt a wave of uncertainty wash over her. This was starting to sound more like a business pitch than a casual meeting. "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any business ventures that would interest someone like you." Mr. Sinclair leaned forward, his gaze fixed on her. "You do, Ms. Taylor. You've been running an online store for a while, haven't you? I've seen the potential. You have a product that people need, but you're not reaching the right audience. You're barely scraping by, but I can help you take it to the next level. I can help you make your business thrive." Mia's heart skipped a beat. She had started the online store as a way to make extra income, but it was never more than a side project. She didn't have the time or resources to make it big, and she had always assumed it would remain a small endeavor. But here was this man, this stranger, telling her that her business had potential, that it could be something bigger. "I don't know what to say," Mia murmured, still processing everything. Mr. Sinclair smiled again, his eyes softening. "You don't have to say anything right now. I'm not asking you to make a decision on the spot. But I want you to know that I can help you. I can provide the funding, the resources, and the connections you need to grow your business. In return, I'd like to see you succeed. I want to be a part of your journey." Mia was speechless. Her mind was racing, trying to make sense of everything he was saying. Was this really happening? Was this some sort of dream? She had always dreamed of having someone believe in her, of having the resources to turn her passion into something bigger. But she never imagined it would come from someone like him. Mr. Sinclair sat back in his chair, watching her closely. "You have something special, Ms. Taylor, but you don't have to do it alone anymore. I'm offering you a chance to change your life and the lives of your children. All you have to do is trust me." Mia looked at him, the weight of his words sinking in. She didn't know what to think, but one thing was clear. Her life was about to change, whether she was ready for it or not. Mia sat in the luxurious office, still trying to process the whirlwind of events that had led her here. The offer Mr. Sinclair had made was not what she expected. To be honest, she didn't even know what to think. The whole situation felt surreal. A stranger, someone who obviously had wealth and influence, was offering to help her grow her small online business. But why, and what did he want in return? Her thoughts kept circling around these questions. But she knew one thing for sure. Her life, as she had known it, was about to change. Mr. Sinclair was watching her closely as though waiting for her to speak. Mia took a deep breath, trying to gather her thoughts. She could feel the weight of the decision she was about to make. She had always been independent, determined to figure things out on her own. But the reality was she had been struggling. Every day felt like a fight just to stay afloat. And now, here was someone offering her a way out, offering her something that could truly make a difference in her life. Mia shifted in her seat, looking at Mr. Sinclair. I don't know what to say. This is a lot to take in. He smiled, understanding the hesitation in her voice. I can imagine. This is not a small decision, but I'm not here to pressure you. I just want you to understand the opportunity you have. Mia looked down at her hands, clasped tightly in her lap. She couldn't stop thinking about her kids. Her children were everything to her. She wanted a better life for them. One where they didn't have to worry about whether they could afford things. One where she didn't have to juggle a million things just to make ends meet. But the thought of trusting someone like Mr. Sinclair, someone who clearly had a lot of power and influence, made her nervous. What if this was just a business deal for him? What if he didn't really care about her or her family? I don't want to get my hopes up, Mia said quietly. I've had my fair share of disappointments. Mr. Sinclair leaned forward, his expression softening. I understand, but you don't have to do this alone anymore. I can see that you've been doing your best, but there's only so much you can do on your own. I've built my own business from the ground up, and I know what it's like to struggle. I know how hard it is to juggle everything. That's why I'm offering you this chance. Mia looked at him, trying to read his face. He seemed sincere, but it was hard to tell. He could be saying all the right things, but it didn't necessarily mean he was being honest. She had been burned before, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to trust someone again. I don't know if I can trust you, she said softly, the words feeling heavy on her tongue. I've had people promise me things before, and they never followed through. I can't afford to be let down again. Mr. Sinclair nodded, as if he understood exactly where she was coming from. I know trust is hard to come by, but I'm not like the others. I'm offering you something real, Mia. I want to help you succeed, and I'm willing to invest in you, not just your business, but in you as a person. I see your potential, and I believe in what you're doing. That's why I want to work with you. Mia didn't know what to say. She had spent so many years trying to make everything work on her own, never asking for help, never letting anyone in. The thought of letting someone like Mr. Sinclair into her world, into her life, was terrifying. But at the same time, the idea of having someone truly believe in her, of having the resources to make her business a success, was a temptation she couldn't ignore. She took a deep breath and looked him in the eye. What exactly are you offering me? Mr. Sinclair smiled, as though he had been waiting for her to ask. I'm offering you the funding you need to grow your business. But it's not just about money. I have connections in the industry, people who can help you market your products, people who can help you reach a wider audience. I can help you build a brand, not just a business. You'll have the support you need to turn your small venture into something much bigger. I can give you the resources and the expertise to make that happen. Mia's mind was spinning. It all sounded too good to be true. She had always dreamed of having her own successful business, of being able to provide for her children in a way that didn't involve struggling every day. But could she really trust this man? Could she trust him enough to let him into her life, into her business? I don't know what to say, Mia repeated, feeling overwhelmed. I've never had someone offer me something like this before. Mr. Sinclair's expression softened. I understand that this is a big decision, Mia, and I'm not asking you to make it right now. I want you to take your time, think about it. I'm here to answer any questions you have. For a moment, Mia was silent, lost in thought. She felt like she was standing on the edge of something huge. She could take the leap and trust Mr. Sinclair, or she could walk away and continue struggling on her own. The decision felt monumental, and she didn't know if she was ready for it. But then she thought about her children again. She thought about the future she wanted for them. She didn't want them to grow up in the same way she had. She didn't want them to watch her work herself to the bone, always tired, always worried. She wanted them to have the opportunity she never had, to be able to chase their dreams without the constant fear of failure hanging over them. She looked at Mr. Sinclair, the man who had offered her a chance, a lifeline. What would this look like? If I agreed to work with you, what would the next steps be? Mr. Sinclair leaned back in his chair, his gaze steady. First, we would discuss your business in more detail. I want to understand your vision, what you want to achieve, and how you plan to get there. Then we'll work together to develop a strategy. I'll provide you with the resources, the funding, and the connections you need to grow, but you'll be the one in charge. I'm not here to control your business, I'm here to support you. Mia nodded slowly, processing his words. And what's in it for you? Why are you offering this to me? Mr. Sinclair's eyes softened, a hint of something personal behind them. I've been where you are, Mia. I've struggled, I've fought to get to where I am, and I know what it's like to want something more. I believe in giving people a chance. I'm offering you this because I want to see you succeed, and because in some way I think it's the right thing to do. Mia was silent for a moment, letting his words sink in. She wasn't sure if she was ready to take this leap, but the more she thought about it, the more it seemed like an opportunity she couldn't pass up. This was her chance to change her life, to give her children a better future, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a spark of hope. I'll think about it, she said finally, her voice steady, but I need some time. I need to talk to my kids to figure out what this would mean for all of us. Mr. Sinclair nodded, his expression understanding. Of course. Take all the time you need. But remember, Mia, opportunities like this don't come around often. Mia stood up, her heart pounding. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like it was within her reach. She wasn't sure if she was ready to trust Mr. Sinclair, but she knew that she couldn't let this opportunity slip away without considering it. Thank you for this, she said quietly, looking at him. I'll let you know what I decide. Mr. Sinclair smiled again, his eyes warm. I'll be here when you're ready, Mia. Take care. As she walked out of his office and back into the elevator, Mia felt a sense of uncertainty mixed with excitement. She had a decision to make, a big one, and whatever choice she made, she knew it would change her life forever. The following days passed by in a blur. Mia tried to focus on her routine, but the offer from Mr. Sinclair weighed heavily on her mind. She couldn't stop thinking about the possibilities, the changes that could come with accepting his proposal. Every moment she wasn't occupied with her kids or her job, she found herself lost in thought, imagining what her life might look like if she took the leap. But there was still a part of her that hesitated. She had always been self-sufficient, always figured things out on her own. She had never relied on anyone, never allowed herself to trust others with the things that mattered most. And now here was this man, someone who had wealth, power, and influence offering to help her in ways she had never imagined. Could she trust him? Was this really the opportunity it seemed to be? Or was it all just too good to be true? The doubts kept creeping in, and every time she tried to quiet them, they only grew louder. She knew she had to make a decision, but it felt like a monumental one. If she accepted, there would be no going back. Her life would change in ways she couldn't predict, and she wasn't sure she was ready for that. It was late one evening when Mia found herself sitting at the kitchen table after the kids had gone to bed. The house was quiet, save for the occasional creak of the old wooden floors. She had her laptop open in front of her, scrolling through her online store, looking at the small inventory she had. It wasn't much, but it was hers. The thought of growing it, of turning it into something bigger, filled her with both excitement and fear. Her phone buzzed on the table, pulling her from her thoughts. She glanced at the screen and saw a message from Mr. Sinclair. I understand this is a big decision, Mia. I just wanted to remind you that I'm here to help you, no pressure, but I believe in what you can do. Let me know if you'd like to talk more. She stared at the message for a moment, the weight of it settling in. She hadn't responded since their meeting, and part of her felt guilty. He had been patient with her, but she knew he was waiting for an answer. She took a deep breath and typed back, Thank you for your patience. I've been thinking a lot about it. I think I'm ready to talk. A few moments later, he replied, Great. Let's schedule a time. I want to help you move forward. Mia set the phone down, her heart racing again. She had made the decision, but she didn't know what to expect. What would this next conversation bring? Was she truly ready to take this step? The next day, Mia and Mr. Sinclair spoke over the phone. The conversation started slowly, with Mia asking questions about the specifics of the partnership. Mr. Sinclair explained the resources he could provide: financial backing, marketing strategies, connections in the industry that would help her reach a wider audience. He wasn't promising instant success, but he was offering her the tools to build something sustainable. Mia listened carefully, asking more detailed questions. She wanted to understand exactly what she was agreeing to. She had learned over the years that it was important to be cautious, especially when things seemed too good to be true. But the more Mr. Sinclair spoke, the more she realized that he wasn't just offering her a handout, he was offering her a chance to take control of her future. As the conversation continued, Mia began to feel a shift. The doubts that had clouded her mind slowly started to clear. She could hear the sincerity in Mr. Sinclair's voice, and she could feel the truth of what he was saying. This wasn't just about money or business, it was about believing in herself, in her abilities. He wasn't asking her to change who she was. He was offering her the opportunity to grow, to reach her potential. By the end of the conversation, Mia had made her decision. She was ready to take the leap. She would accept the offer. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Mia met with Mr. Sinclair's team, a group of professionals who were dedicated to helping her business succeed. They discussed marketing strategies, branding, and product expansion. Mia felt both overwhelmed and exhilarated. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she was working toward something bigger than just surviving day by day. Her online store, which had once been a small side project, began to grow. She started to see the changes she had only dreamed of. Her sales increased, her social media following grew, and she even began to get messages from people who wanted to collaborate with her. The opportunity that Mr. Sinclair had given her was starting to pay off, and she couldn't believe how quickly things were changing. But even with the success, there were moments when Mia felt the weight of it all. She was still adjusting to the idea of having someone else involved in her business, someone with so much influence. She was used to being the one in control, the one who made all the decisions. Now there were times when she had to trust Mr. Sinclair's team to guide her, to make the right choices. It was a shift, one that wasn't always easy for her to accept. She found herself second-guessing some of the decisions, wondering if she was doing the right thing. There were days when she felt overwhelmed by the responsibility, by the pressure to succeed. She had always prided herself on being independent, and now she was relying on others in ways she hadn't anticipated. But when she looked at her children, when she saw how much better life was becoming for them, the doubts seemed to fade. They were no longer living in a cramped apartment, struggling to make ends meet. Mia could afford to give them more experiences, more opportunities. And that, in the end, was what mattered most to her. One evening, after a long day of work, Mia sat down with her kids for dinner. They were laughing and chatting as usual, and for a moment, Mia let herself relax. She listened to them talk about their day, their excitement over the little things. It was a reminder of why she had taken this leap in the first place. Her children were her world, and everything she did was for them. She wanted them to grow up knowing that anything was possible, that they could achieve their dreams if they worked hard enough. As she finished her meal, her phone buzzed again. It was a message from Mr. Sinclair. "I just wanted to check in. How are you feeling about everything? I know it's been a lot, but I hope you're seeing the progress." Mia smiled as she read the message. She felt a sense of pride in how far she had come. It hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. She was building something that was hers, something that could provide a better life for her family. "I'm feeling good," she typed back. "It's a lot to adjust to, but I can see the changes. Thank you for believing in me." Mr. Sinclair's reply was quick. "You've done the hard work, Mia. You just needed the right tools and the right support. Keep going, and I'm here if you need anything." Mia sat back in her chair, feeling a sense of gratitude wash over her. She hadn't expected this to be easy, but she had come a long way. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was on the right path. As the months went on, Mia's business continued to thrive. With Mr. Sinclair's guidance and the support of his team, she was able to expand her product line, reach a wider audience, and build a brand that people were beginning to recognize. She was no longer just a single mom struggling to make ends meet. She was a business owner, someone who had built something from the ground up, Her children were thriving too. They had more opportunities, more experiences, and most importantly, they had a mother who was present and confident in her decisions. Mia was no longer living in fear of the unknown. She was embracing it, and she was learning to trust not just Mr. Sinclair but herself. She had taken a leap of faith and it had paid off. But more than that, it had given her the chance to build a future for her family that she could be proud of. The road hadn't been easy and there were still challenges ahead, but Mia knew one thing for sure. She was stronger than she had ever been before. And no matter what came next, she was ready. The months that followed felt like a whirlwind. Mia had never imagined her life would change so drastically in such a short time. What started as a small online store, something she had hoped would just help pay a few bills, had turned into a business she could be proud of. The guidance and resources that Mr. Sinclair had provided her were turning out to be more than just financial. They were teaching her how to truly lead, how to trust her instincts, and how to build something sustainable that could provide for her family for years to come. It wasn't always easy. There were moments when Mia doubted herself, when the weight of it all felt too heavy. She still wasn't used to the idea of relying on others for help. She had always been the one to take care of everything on her own. But each day she found herself becoming more comfortable with the idea that asking for help didn't mean weakness. It meant growth. Her relationship with Mr. Sinclair had evolved too. What had started as a professional arrangement had slowly grown into something more. They talked often about the business, of course, but there were times when their conversations strayed from work. He had begun to share more about his own life, the struggles he had faced before he found success, the lessons he had learned along the way. Mia had always admired his business acumen, but she had come to respect him for who he was as a person, someone who understood the importance of family and of taking risks to create something meaningful. It was on one of those late-night phone calls, after another successful product launch, that Mr. Sinclair said something that stuck with Mia. "You know, Mia," he said, his voice quieter than usual, "when I started this journey, I never thought I'd find someone like you. Someone with such drive and passion. Someone who didn't give up even when things were tough. You remind me of why I started all this in the first place, to help people like you." Mia's heart fluttered a little at his words. It was rare for him to open up like that. She could sense the sincerity in his voice, and it made her feel like she was more than just a business partner to him. But still, she didn't allow herself to get caught up in the feelings. She had learned the hard way not to mix personal and professional lives, and even though she had come to trust Mr. Sinclair, she wasn't ready to complicate things. Her kids were doing well too. They had settled into their new lives with ease. They had a bigger home now, one with a backyard where they could play freely. Mia could afford to take them on little trips, and they no longer had to worry about where their next meal would come from, or whether they could make it through the month. Her son Alex had started playing soccer, and her daughter Lily had picked up painting. They were blossoming, and it was all thanks to the chance Mr. Sinclair had given her. But even as things were improving, Mia still had moments of doubt. She would wake up some mornings staring at the ceiling, unsure of whether the success would last. What if things fell apart? What if it all came crashing down? The fear of failure was something she carried with her every day, but she had learned to push it aside to keep moving forward. She couldn't afford to let fear hold her back. Not now. One afternoon, as Mia sat at her desk, working on a new marketing campaign, she received a call from Mr. Sinclair. She picked up the phone with a smile, expecting it to be about an upcoming product launch or a meeting. But the tone in his voice was different this time. Softer, almost hesitant. "Mia," he began, "I've been thinking about something that I need to tell you." Mia's heart skipped a beat. She had grown accustomed to his confidence, to his steady presence, but now he sounded almost vulnerable. "What's going on?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "I know we've built a great business together," he said, his voice quieter than usual, "and I'm proud of everything we've accomplished. But I've been thinking a lot about our future, about where we're going and how we're getting there. And I realized that I've been holding back." Mia was confused. "What do you mean? You've always been upfront with me." "I know," he said, sighing. "But it's not about the business. It's about you, Mia. It's about how much you've meant to me, how much you've changed my life. And I think I've fallen for you." Mia's breath caught in her throat. She had never expected this, not in a million years. They had always kept things professional, and she had never allowed herself to think about anything more. She had seen Mr. Sinclair as a mentor, a partner and someone she respected deeply, but she had never considered the possibility that he might feel something more. "Mia, I know this is unexpected," he continued, his words rushed. "I didn't want to complicate things, but I can't keep pretending that I don't feel this way." "You mean more to me than I ever expected." Mia sat back in her chair, her mind racing. She hadn't anticipated this turn of events, and she wasn't sure how to process it. Her first instinct was to shut it down, to remind him that they couldn't mix business and personal feelings. But as she thought about everything they had shared, everything they had been through together, she realized something. Maybe, just maybe, she had been afraid to admit it too. "Mia," he said softly, sensing her hesitation, "I understand if you don't feel the same way, but I had to tell you. You deserve to know how I feel." Mia took a deep breath. This was unexpected, but it wasn't entirely out of the blue. She had always admired his strength, his vision, and the way he made her feel valued. They had spent so much time together over the past few months working side by side, and it had only made sense that a bond would form. I didn't know," Mia said finally, her voice trembling slightly. "I've always respected you, Mr. Sinclair. You've done so much for me, and I never thought about us like that. But now that you've said it, I can't help but wonder if I might feel the same way." The words hung in the air between them. Mia's heart was racing. She had never let herself get too close to anyone, especially not someone like Mr. Sinclair. But this was different. She had seen his vulnerability, his heart, and maybe that was what made it possible for her to see him in a new light. "Mia," he said softly, "I don't want to pressure you. I just wanted you to know the truth. No matter what happens, I'll support you, just like I always have. But I wanted to be honest with you." Mia sat silently for a moment, trying to process everything. She knew this wasn't an easy situation. It wasn't just about her feelings, it was about the life she had built, the success she had worked so hard for. But for the first time, Mia realized that she didn't have to choose between the two. She didn't have to choose between love and ambition. She could have both. "I don't know what the future holds," Mia said finally, "but I'm willing to see where this goes. I trust you, and I think we could make this work. We've built something incredible together, and I believe in what we've created. Maybe we can create something even more." Mr. Sinclair's voice was filled with relief and joy. "Mia, I'm so glad to hear you say that. We'll take it one step at a time together." From that moment on, Mia knew that her life had changed forever. She had not only found success in her business, but she had also found something deeper, something more meaningful. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth every moment of uncertainty, every challenge. As she looked ahead to the future, Mia felt more confident than ever. She had built something beautiful, something that would continue to grow, and now with Mr. Sinclair by her side, she knew there was nothing they couldn't accomplish. Together, they would continue to build the life they had always dreamed of, one step at a time. And for the first time in a long time, Mia felt like she was truly living the life she deserved. Mia stood in front of her bathroom mirror, looking at the reflection staring back at her. She could barely recognize herself anymore. It wasn't just the physical changes, although there had been a few with the long hours she'd been putting into the business. It was more about the internal shift she had experienced over the last year. She had gone from being a woman just trying to survive to someone who was actively shaping her future, with help from people who truly believed in her potential. When she had first met Mr. Sinclair, her thoughts were focused on her kids and how to make ends meet. She had never imagined that one day, she would be standing at the precipice of something bigger than she ever dreamed, not just professionally, but personally as well. But now, as she gazed at her reflection, she wasn't sure what the future held. There were new challenges ahead, challenges that came with success. The phone rang, pulling her from her thoughts. It was an unrecognized number. Mia hesitated for a moment but decided to answer. "Hello? Mia, it's me," said Mr. Sinclair's voice on the other end, calm but filled with excitement. "I wanted to talk to you about something important. Do you have a minute?" "Of course," she replied, trying to steady her breathing. There was something in his tone that told her this conversation wasn't going to be just another business update. "I've been thinking a lot about where we are," he began. "The business is growing, and it's clear that you've done an amazing job with it. I'm proud of how far we've come, but there's more to discuss. I've got an opportunity that I want to present to you, something that could take everything we've worked for to a whole new level. Mia felt a wave of curiosity flood through her. What's this opportunity? She asked, her heart pounding a little faster. I've been in talks with a major investor, he continued. They're interested in backing our business, expanding it beyond what we thought was possible. We're talking national retail, global online platforms, and even international distribution. But in order to make it happen, we need to scale up. And for that, we need someone with a proven track record in leadership. Someone who understands the risks and rewards. Mia's mind was racing. This was everything she had ever wanted, but it felt daunting. The scale of what Mr. Sinclair was talking about felt like something she wasn't prepared for. I'm listening, she said, trying to keep her voice steady, even as uncertainty gnawed at her insides. You, Mia, you're the leader we need, Mr. Sinclair said, his voice firm with belief. I'm offering you a chance to become the face of this business, to take on an even bigger role. You'd be at the forefront of every decision, every move we make. You've proven yourself time and time again, and now it's time for you to step into the spotlight. I can't do this without you. This is your chance to truly shine. Mia's heart fluttered in her chest. The weight of his words sunk in slowly. She had spent so long running from the spotlight, hiding behind the safety of the business she had built. She had always kept her head down, focused on the day-to-day grind. But now, she was being asked to step up, to take charge, to become the person she had always hoped she could be. Mr. Sinclair, I don't know what to say, she said, her voice barely a whisper. This is a huge responsibility. I know it is, he said softly, but I believe in you. I've seen what you can do. You've already turned this company around, and this opportunity could take us to places we've only dreamed of. I won't push you into anything, Mia. I want you to take your time, think about it. But know this, if you say yes, you won't be doing it alone. I'm here every step of the way. Mia took a deep breath, holding the phone tightly. This was it. This was the moment that could change everything. She thought about her children and how far they had come, how much their lives had improved. She thought about the business she had built, how proud she was of what she had achieved. And now here was this new opportunity, a chance to take it all to the next level. It was terrifying, but it was also exhilarating. I need to think about it, she said finally. This is a lot to process. Take your time, he replied. I know you'll make the right choice. As she hung up the phone, Mia stood there for a moment, staring at the wall. The decision ahead of her felt like a heavy weight pressing down on her. She had always prided herself on being a fighter, on pushing through the hard times. But now she was facing something much bigger than just her own struggles. This was about taking a leap, not just for herself, but for her family, her employees, everyone who had supported her. She walked into the living room, where her kids were playing on the couch, laughing and talking as they always did. They had no idea what was going on in her mind. They were just happy to be together, happy to be part of this new life. And for that, Mia was grateful. She didn't want to disappoint them, didn't want to fail them, but she also didn't want to stay stuck in her comfort zone. She had worked so hard to get where she was, and now she had a chance to push beyond what she had ever thought possible. The fear of failure was there, but the possibility of success was even bigger. She had always dreamed of something more, and now the dream was within her reach. That night, after the kids were in bed, Mia sat at her desk, her laptop open in front of her. She scrolled through emails and messages, but her mind kept returning to the conversation she'd had with Mr. Sinclair. What if this was her chance? What if this was the moment she had been waiting for? She closed her eyes and thought about everything they had been through. When she had first started the business, she never imagined it would turn into something this big. And now here she was, standing at the edge of a new chapter. She had always wanted to build something more, something that could last, something that could change her family's future. But could she handle it? Could she really step up and take on the responsibility? She didn't have all the answers, and she knew there would be challenges ahead. But she also knew that she had a choice. She could keep playing it safe, stay in her comfort zone, or she could take the leap and see just how far she could go. Mia closed her laptop and stood up. She paced the room for a few minutes, her thoughts racing. Finally, she took a deep breath and made a decision. She wasn't going to let fear hold her back. She was going to take that leap. The next morning, she called Mr. Sinclair. I'm ready, she said when he picked up. Let's do this. His voice was filled with relief and excitement. "You won't regret this, Mia. I'm so glad to hear you say that." As the conversation continued, Mia could feel the weight lifting from her shoulders. She had made her choice and it felt right. There would be challenges ahead, yes. But there would also be incredible rewards both for her and for her family. This was her chance to step into her power, to take control of her future and build the life she had always dreamed of. The days and weeks that followed were a blur of meetings, decisions, and plans. Mia dove headfirst into the project, working alongside Mr. Sinclair and his team to make sure everything went smoothly. There were times when the pressure felt overwhelming, when she wondered if she had made the right decision. But every time she looked at her kids, every time she saw how much they were thriving, she knew that this was what she had to do. As the business grew, so did Mia's confidence. She learned to trust herself more, to trust her instincts and her ability to lead. She was no longer just the woman behind the scenes managing the day-to-day operations. She was the face of the company, the person who was driving it forward, and she was doing it on her own terms. In the end, Mia realized that the greatest success wasn't the money or the business expansion. It was the person she had become along the way. She had taken a chance on herself and it had paid off. And as she looked toward the future, Mia knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them. She had built something amazing not just for her business but for her family, for herself. And that was just the beginning.